Hello.
Hi,
Hi.
how are you doing, Joy? What's
Good.
going on?
How are you? Oh, we're buried in
I am
snow.
I'm doing well. I know, yeah. Tell us about the weather. So the first thing,
We are.
just yeah,
Oh, go ahead.
I can't. Okay, so welcome to Gardening Plus. Um, I'm Healy and this is Joy. I am going completely out of order for everything, but I'm kind of distracted because we want to first acknowledge we know Winter Storm Fern is really going at it, from as early as Thursday to as late as Monday or Tuesday.
Mhm.
So we just want to send out our thoughts and everything with everyone who's dealing with that. I'm here in Southern California, zone 10B11A, and I am not experiencing that weather. But Joy, where are you? And tell us what's going on where you are.
Yes, I am New York Zone 6B, but we have, like, I'm about an hour north of the city. So we got close to 24 inches where I am. I know it's, depending on different parts, you get a little bit more or less, but I got a pretty hefty amount here. My husband
Hmm.
was snow blowing like all day, well, twice yesterday, because you don't want it to pile so much that the snow blower can't even get through it. So we
That's right.
we plowed in the morning, plowed at night, and then plowed again this morning for the residual. There's still a little bit coming down, but it's not going to,
Hmm.
amount to much. But and then I had to, do my own shoveling with the paths and the stairs, getting up to the chickens, giving the chickens a
Hmm.
little bit of space because they're kind of scared of snow.
Yeah. So
So
were you able to prepare like your garden space and your animals and everything? Were you able to get all of that done before the weather hit you?
I
Or did you get caught in it?
now I didn't have to do too much. The
Mhm.
we've had snow from prior like weeks, so we already had a blanket, and I'm not in the area where I would be going out and covering things because snow is the best insulator,
Mhm.
for these parts. But definitely, I hope most people who are like south of us, the ones who don't experience this kind of weather very often, I hope that they but there is that. There's covering it if it's just going to be the cold, icy weather. And then there's waiting till the snow covers it and then covering it so
Yeah.
that you have that insulation, but the snow is not pressing down on the plant because of that cover.
Okay.
But, and then the chickens, I had given them like more bedding, but other than that, there's really, it's sink or swim with them.
It's
I do
yeah.
have to
Yeah.
like make sure their water is constantly freezing. So I'm out there,
Mhm.
several times a day, making sure they get fresh water.
Yeah.
And they pretty much stay inside when it's like this stuff. They don't really like the snow too much.
Mhm. Oh, wow. I know my dad has a rooster and
Mm,
he has plants and stuff and trees and everything in
yeah.
pots. So he was bringing things in the garage,
Mhm.
just fortifying the chicken coop and making sure everything was, okay with the rooster.
Mhm.
But the weather has been significant in some areas. I was watching the news this morning and they have already mentioned a number of passing aways,
Uh-huh.
due to this
Yeah.
this storm. And because the storm itself has passed, it doesn't mean that the
Right.
event is over,
Mhm.
because there's a lot of cold
Yes.
temperatures and stuff coming after the storm passes.
Mhm.
And I also heard that like this weekend coming up, another system is supposed to be coming through.
Oh,
So,
wow.
that's something. So, like I said, we just wanted to, acknowledge that that's what's going on. We hope that
Mhm.
everyone is safe, warm, and dry. And
Yes.
now, I feel like I've gathered myself, so I can
Okay.
start over with
Oh,
the
good.
intro. Welcome to Gardening Plus with Joy and Healy. We are two coast to coast gardeners sharing our beyond the basics experiences, intermediate knowledge, and advanced antics. So sit down, relax, and enjoy the show. As I mentioned earlier, I am in Southern California, zone 10B and 11A. That is going to be our topic. Um, later on today. Well, that is the topic for
Mm,
today.
right.
Um, and then Joy, just once again, just tell us where you are and what's going on with you.
Sure. I am New York, so in 6B, depends, but consider the microclimates. I garden using various, manners, in-ground raised beds, containers, indoor growings, very much when it's cold. But I
Mm-hmm.
hope to add greenhouse growing to that, repertoire soon.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I have my chickens. I currently have 15 altogether. 5 of them are roosters, so I am trying to, figure out a way to minimize that to just one roosters. It's getting to be a bit
Oh.
much, especially at
Mm-hmm.
6, maybe even earlier in the morning. They're all going at it. I'm already not popular with the neighbors, I'm sure.
Oh.
I'm gonna get a call soon. Yeah, the thick of winter is here. This is our coldest month, definitely is January.
Mm-hmm.
We are getting the negative temperatures, and then the wind chills makes it even more negative. Not
Yeah.
as bad as, I'm hearing negative 50 degrees in
I
like certain states. I'm
know.
like, what? That's
Yeah, I heard that
crazy.
too.
But we get our fair share of negative weather. Um, the summers here are pretty mild. We get the occasional heat waves. And actually, during my research for the show, I realized that our average rainfall is about 50 inches per year. And that gives me roughly 150 days of growing, of a growing season from mid May to mid October. And it could stretch
Mm-hmm.
either way. That's me.
And I know we like to open it up and say what we've been doing since the last live stream. So if you missed it, our first live stream was 2 weeks ago.
Mhm.
And we started off with an intro to like this is what the 2026 podcast. I'm saying podcast. Maybe I'm
You
speaking
tried
something
it.
into the future,
Yep.
but we have named our live stream Gardening Plus with Joy and Healy. And then we just summarized what we plan to do with this live stream. So if you have not seen that live stream, make sure you check it out. It is on Joy's channel, and let me just put her information here along the screen. So what we do is we alternate. So one live stream will be on Joy's channel, and then hopefully 2 weeks later it'll be on mine, and then 2 weeks later it'll be on mine. So just check out both of our channels and get the updated dates and times. So right now we are on Mondays, every other Monday at 11 a.m. Pacific and 2 p.m. Eastern, but we're thinking about changing those times, the day and the time. We want to be available and accessible to more people, so we're taking a look at that. Um, but what I've been doing since the past 2 weeks is um, still working on a transformation for the Backyard Shenanigans Garden. And I will show you, let's see, let me try to get this together. Okay, let's do this here, and let's do this. So this is what my main garden space looks like now. And if you've been subscribed to my channel, and if you recall this space from before, this was 6 mini raised beds. I had 3 on each side of the planters that you see in the middle. I replaced those DIY raised beds with these metal raised beds. These are VEGO raised beds. Um, just because of the aesthetic, because every year and a half to 2 years, I like to switch around my garden. Like anyway, so this is what it looks like now. It's still in progress. Those white PVC pipes that you see on the left side, those were previous frames that I put over the mini raised beds, where I could put over shade cloth and then also put like chicken wire or some type of protection to prevent critters from getting into the raised beds. I am going to repurpose those PVC pipes to make some kind of frame for the raised beds that I have here. The other thing that I've been working on are my blueberry bushes. So I have 3, And if you start closest to farthest away, the closest is a sharp blueberry. The one in the middle that looks just like it's almost dead, that is my bountiful blue. And then the one in the back by the brick post, that is a pink lemonade. And then I also have um the two smaller ones that are up on that table. I got an O'Neill and an emerald. And those are supposed to be good blueberries for my area because they have low chill zones. I mean, they have low chill hour requirements. And that's definitely um, what I need in my area. Yesterday, during football, and I was watching the football games, but I took the time because I was trying to beat, sunset. And I completely repotted the middle plant, the bountiful blue. I took all of that soil out, resifted it. I amended it with some peat moss, some perlite, and I mixed in some sulfur, 99.9% sulfur,
Mm.
and some cottonseed meal. So I'm hoping that helps to revive that. And then the other two large pots, I just topped off the extra soil that I had from that, just topped them off and fertilized it, and then up potted the new blueberries from 4-inch pots to those 1-gallon pots. So yeah, Joy, that's what that's what I've been doing for the past 2 weeks. Still working. The garden is always a work in progress, but it's a significant transformation from what it was just a month ago.
Awesome. Yeah, I was looking at your last video where you mentioned about the sulfur, and I went to the garden center this week, a couple of days ago, and I was looking at bags, and they're like 16% or whatever, and I'm like,
Right.
what's the
Right.
rest of it?
And for the price. So I don't know if I have that with me at the moment, but it was the brand I got, I think is True Organic.
Mm-hmm.
And that is 99, is either 99% or 99.9% sulfur.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this is what I'm looking for.
Right.
I went to my local garden center, had like the large, like 50-pound bags. And that was, I think it's 90% sulfur and like 10% diatomaceous earth or something like that.
Okay.
I didn't need that much. I think the bag I have is somewhere between 3 and 5 pounds. So yeah, true organic is what I got.
Yeah, I looked that up on Amazon. It's on my list. I'm gonna be. But the cottonseed meal, that's something I've heard has very good success. So that's something I'm going to be looking into as well for the coming season. What have I been doing? Not as much as I would like. I had a list, of what I expected to accomplish, but it got waylaid with snow days and kids being sick and everything. Like I believe 2 videos ago, I was able to spread some hay in the chicken run, but that's all covered up now. Normally we get a pickup of a few bales every year around, early January. But with all the rain, it was impossible for us to get up to the space that we normally pick up from. Plus the bales were going to be super heavy and soaked. So it was just not, this season has not been on my side so far. So I didn't have extra hay to either use for the chickens or the dog or whatever else. So that was kind of a bummer. I was able to get my seed audit done. I have a video on that. I think it was alive. Yeah, it was alive. I was able to go through some of my seeds, and I pulled some seeds that I wanted to start next, mainly a lot of flowers and also a few herbs, which are something I should be starting indoors now, if not into February. At the rate things are going, with everything going on, it's pushing into February. Which is fine, still plenty of time.
But you're still able to start inside though, because you have an inside growing space. Yeah.
Right.
So it'll just delay you putting stuff outside. Okay.
Right. Not necessarily. And then I wanted to, speaking of being outside, do some winter sowing and get that started. But it's just been so cold that there's no way I'm going outside to be poking holes and filling dirt. None of that's happening. So that's going to be delayed a couple of weeks because we're not getting above freezing temperatures for this whole week. And, we'll see what next week looks like. So I was hoping to get that done. So I'm like here fiddling my thumbs going, I want to do something, but I can't. So I'm working on, I got the containers, but I got to cut them up or put holes at the bottom, get labels done. So certain things I could do, like the labeling, let's say I could do that. But I've got the seeds picked out. So they're just waiting. Yeah. It's woohoo. I'm sad.
Sometimes that's how it is. But I mean, you have workarounds and you have other things that you can do while you're waiting for, the time to be more in your favor.
Right.
So do we have anything to talk about, or you want to mention anything before we get into today's topic?
I believe, what did I have? Did we have a word for reflection this week or today?
No, we don't.
Okay. All right.
We don't. That was on me, and we do not. The word for reflection. The word for reflection today is calm. Calm.
Calm. Yes.
Just calm. That's what we need. Calm.
All right.
And just so you can see at the bottom, we have information scrolling. Today's topic, we're going to talk about the plant hardiness zones and frost dates. We also have the link to come up in a live stream, and I'm going to see if I can add that. Let me see if I can add that in the chat. So if you want to come up, let's try to get that in the chat. You can do that. Let's put the link. Okay, that's there. And let me see. Let me just turn this off. Okay, so USDA hardiness zones and frost dates. What are they? Are they important? Do we need them? Does anybody care? We're going to talk about that. You hear a lot of gardeners, and you heard me and Joy mention it today. Hi, I'm in Southern California, zone 10B/11A. Joy is in New York, zone 6 and this and that. And those are what's known as the USDA hardiness zones. And a lot of gardeners use them to determine what they can grow and when they can grow it. But I want to ask, is that the information we need? Is that the most important, or is it something called frost dates? Now, there's two main frost dates, and we're going to get into that. But I want to start with a few definitions. That way, we're all on the same page, and we all talking, kind of in the same area. So the first thing is the USDA plant hardiness zones. And these are the standard by which gardeners and growers can determine which perennial plants are most likely to thrive at a location. Now, the first thing you notice, it says perennial. Right. And for us, we're mostly growing annuals, right? So every year we're sowing new seeds or starting new transplants. But this says, and this definition is straight from the USDA website, it says that the hardiness zones are for perennial planting. So does that mean it's automatically, okay, throw the hardiness zones away, we don't need them at all? Or, hey, we still need them, we can still use them, the information is valuable, but maybe I need something else. I want to show you a map, and let's take Joy's area. So this is her area, New York, and you see these in 2023 is when the last time that the plant hardiness zones got updated. And you can see, I know it's probably kind of small, but you can see the different temperature ranges and the colors for the different zones. The map is displayed as 10-degree Fahrenheit zones and 5-degree Fahrenheit half zones. But there could still be microclimates within those zones that you need to be familiar with. The zones are based on the average annual extreme minimum winter temperature during a 30-year period in the past, not necessarily the lowest temperature that has ever occurred in the past or might occur in the future. Let's take, for instance, the winter storm that's going on right now. If in those areas that are affected, gardeners were following their normal uh, routine and time frame for, planting, sowing, greenhouse, whatever, this storm, not necessarily a microclimate event like a major climate event, but
Right.
that would throw things off. But in the normal course of the garden year, even as short as a quarter mile from your backyard to your neighbor's backyard, the microclimates could be different. You
Yes.
can have different microclimates within your own yard, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So I showed you this one for New York. I'm going to add, this is the entire northeastern US, and you can see the differences, like I said, with the hardiness zones. You see the numbers and the colors. Like I said, I know it's kind of small to see. We are going to have the references for all of this information in the description. As soon as the live stream is over, I'm going to add that. And then I just want to show you again. So this is my area where I am, southwestern US. You see a lot more oranges and
Orange.
reds and yellows, whereas in the northeast, you saw a lot of purple and blue and
Mhm.
pinks, colder areas. And then here is Southern California, where I said I am, and you can see the difference. A lot of light oranges, dark oranges, and even some reds in my area. Um, so microclimate, these are fine scale climate variations within plant hardiness zones, and also within your own growing spaces, possibly. They can be small heat islands, such as those caused by blacktop and concrete. And my garden is on it's raised beds above ground, but I have a patio right next to my main garden space. I also have patio row, which is where I have most of my fruit trees. So they are on concrete. The area in those spots could be warmer or cooler, or it could be different than some of my other growing spaces. Like on the north side of my house, I have my plant stands. They receive more shade in the morning and more sun in the afternoon because of how my house is positioned and the way that the sun travels across the sky. um, your entire yard could be somewhat warmer or cooler, depending on if it's sheltered or if it's exposed. Like my main plant area is completely exposed, it's out in the open. And I have to use shade cloth in that area if I want to protect my plants, because at some point in the warmer months, they will get sun scald, sunburn, dried up, and everything else. But that's because it's completely in the open. Where I have other spaces that are kind of sheltered or shaded, and I don't have to worry about the heat damage, so much with that. Joy, did you have any thing you want to share about the zones before I go into the frost dates?
I did want to share a couple of, let me see. Can you pull up Canada there? Just so we can include some other parts of the world.
Oh, wait, hold on. You know
Can
what?
you
I
see that?
had downloaded and saved these. I can go to the website. Just keep talking and I'll go to the website and pull it up.
So when I hear a lot of ire from when we're talking to our audience and someone's not from America, then it's like that. What does that mean for me? So Canada has their very own, zones of plant hardiness, and they have zone 8 all the way to, I think, 8, 9, even
Yeah.
9, and then all the way
And
down to 0.
mm-hmm.
So their zone 6, 7, 8 is not the same as our zone 6, 7, 8, but they have their own thing. And
Yeah,
the
this is
UK. Oh, can you
Oh,
see it?
I was just gonna say this is only the US, so let me try to do a quick search for Canada while you continue.
Okay, and then the US, the UK, theirs is they use the letter H, and then they use H1, ABC, H234, all the way to H7. So their H1A is zone 13 for us, whereas their zone with H7, which is their coolest, I guess, is zone 6. So they start at 6 and go all the way up to 13 as far as the UK is concerned. So they are pretty temperate. They don't get super cold, but they can get pretty hot in some parts. So I thought that was interesting looking that up, because we don't take that into account. Like, let's say Charles Dowding, I watch him a lot. He can grow year round, but he says he's about zone 8. So his coldest is about negative, let's see, is that in Celsius? I gotta convert here. Yeah, his coldest is about 14 to 23 degrees Fahrenheit. That's like negative 10 Celsius. So he doesn't last in that space for very long. It's, just up and down. But that's why when we see UK gardens, they're pretty green most of the time.
Let me see.
Okay.
Oh yeah, let me see if this.
There you go.
Okay.
So
Yeah, this
Canada.
is one, and I know that the pictures and stuff is small, but I'm just trying to bring up an example of what Joy is talking about with Canada's with their plant hardiness zones. And then here's another one. Maybe this is a little bit better to show, like you said, starting at 0. Oh my goodness. Yeah. That's pretty cold.
And they have like desert areas, the same, and the rainforest areas. So they also have to contend with really a lot of different climates, microclimates. And even me in my yard, I have elevation shift of maybe 50 feet from the driveway to the top of where I grow. And certain plants, or like flowers, or even just things that grow naturally, weeds per se, they could be up and going at the top of the hill, but still nothing at the bottom of the hill. So there's definitely microclimates in most of our yards.
Okay. I want to move on to talk about frost dates.
Yeah.
So before I talk about frost dates, I just want to give some definitions of a few terms. So frost is ice forming on surfaces, and that starts at 32 degrees Fahrenheit or 0 degrees Celsius. However, some plants can sustain damage at even 33 to 36. So you don't have to get all the way down to 32 before you start seeing changes in your plant health. They can be affected by, a few degrees warmer than that. Now, a freeze in comparison is when the temperature reaches 32 degrees or below for at least an hour. And then a hard freeze is when the temperature drops to 28 degrees or lower for an hour or more. So we have frost, we have freeze, and then we have hard freeze. Now, I mentioned earlier that there's 2 frost dates that you hear a lot of gardeners talk about: the last spring frost and then the first fall frost. Now, these dates can be calculated at the Farmer's Almanac website, and I had that pulled up and I closed it. So I need to pull it up because I just want to show you an example. Let's see if I can get this here. And for the website, you would enter a zip code. Let me see if I can get this to where I can right here. Yeah, let's see this. Let's see if I can get this to share. Okay. Here. Oh, it's not doing it. I'm sorry, y'all. Hold on just 1 second. Let's see if I can get this up now. Okay, here it is. So let's get rid of the free guide. Joy, can you just give me like just make up a zip code.
10567. That's or 90210. Everybody knows
Wait, okay.
90210.
90210. Okay, let's see. And see here, but
Oh, you don't
there
have a
is
frost.
no, yeah,
Okay.
there is no last spring frost or a first fall.
All
So
right, do the other one.
the growing season would literally be the
All the time.
365 days
Right.
a year.
So 10567.
567. Okay, let's see that.
So that's about 20 miles from me.
Okay, so this area is so the nearest station is in Shrub Oak, New York,
Oh,
but
that's
this
weird.
area is for Cortlandt Manor, New York. But here you see how it says the last spring frost is around May 5th, and then the first fall frost is around October 12th. So you have a little bit over 150 days, almost 160 days for your growing season. So if you know your zip code, which I'm sure everyone does, you can enter that information in here and it will give you a general time frame for your last spring frost, your first fall frost, and for your growing season. And let's remove that. Okay. I lost my place here. But going with the frost zones, the freeze, the hard frost, whatever, you have some vegetables and herbs better adapted to colder weather than others. So when you get to hardy vegetables, some examples are asparagus, broccoli, cabbage, onions, peas, and spinach. I don't peas and spinach. That's interesting to say that they are hardy.
Yeah.
But it says these can be planted as soon as the soil is workable in early spring. Some examples of semi-hardy plants are beets, carrots, lettuce, and potatoes, and they can be planted 1 to 2 weeks after the hardy group. And the hardy group can be planted up until the last frost date. Now, very tender plants such as squash, beans, melon, tomato, eggplants, and peppers should not be planted until at least a week after the average last frost. And I think when they say not planted until, they're meaning outside, in a garden, not, you can start your seeds if you have a greenhouse or, you have a growing space inside. You can start those seeds whenever you want it. But as far as putting them outside, that's what this is referencing to. And it says, even if the frost does not occur before this time, these plants will not grow well and are more susceptible to disease until the warmer weather. So just to go back on the difference between the U.S. hardiness zones and the frost dates, both of them important. Is one more important than the other? Can you throw one away and can you use the other? I would say both of them have their place. But we read in a definition from the USDA website that the plant hardiness zones are for perennial growing. And as gardeners, we're mostly growing annuals. Now, we might have some perennials like asparagus or rosemary as a herb, asparagus as a vegetable. Of course, if you have fruit trees, that's perennial. But most of the things that we are growing are annuals. So while it's good to know your hardiness zone, I think the more important thing to know is your first frost date, your first spring and the last fall frost date. That'll give you a time frame of your growing period, and then you'll see just how many days you have to grow in your area.
Right.
Joy, what say ye?
And there's a calculator that you can just Google it, say how many days between whatever the for last frost, which is your spring, and your first. You put that into the search and it'll tell you have 175 growing days, and you can, go by that. As for me, because I do start stuff indoors, there's plenty of guides that say start this 6 weeks before your last frost date. So let's say most of my warm weather crops are like tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, 6 to 8 weeks before your last frost date. And yeah, that's a pretty good marker. The soil will be warm enough so that they don't get that transplant shock when their roots go from your, nice cozy 70-degree house to, 50, 60, hopefully more than 60-degree temperature soil. Going back actually to, what was it? The frost dates. There's also calculators or apps, or it's already out there that tells you on average, this is when, your chances of getting a frost, the likelihood of getting a frost, whether it's like a percentage. So for me, the percentage, it's a 10%, give or take, that I'm going to get 32-degree nights around April 29th. I'm looking at a sheet here that says April 29th. So if I started like 2 weeks earlier, April 8th, there's a 90% chance that I'll get a 32-degree night or a day. So there's also that information available out there. What else did I have pulled up? And then we have plenty of guides that tell us, like a lot of seed companies also have these guides that tell you the best time to put your plants, start them indoors, start them outdoors. Your seed packets might also tell you that when it's best to start indoors or outdoors. So depending on your location, like let's say cabbage, for me, it says start in February, and then you can put it out sometime at the end of March through April, even though it's still cold, as if the soil is workable, which I have a problem with that. It's like, I've never actually gone out there and been like, dink, dink, dink on my frozen topsoil there. So I'm like, what does workable mean? So I'll have to look into that this year. Okay. So there's lots of guides to help you out.
I just want to take a moment and say hi to some people who have joined us in the live stream. Thank you so much. We have Mystery Man, we have T-Nog, better known as Miss Linda, and we have Miss Shirley. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I think we had a couple other people that were in here earlier, but I don't see their names. So, but shout out to you. Also, if you're here for the replay, thank you so much for being here. We hope that this information is helpful, that it's informative, that it will just help you to get, your noodle spinning when you're doing your gardening. There, the difference between the plant hardiness zone and the frost dates, sometimes it can cause a little controversy because you have people know the zone. I have to know the zone. That's it. I go by the zone. It says I'm in, 10B, and this is what I can grow. This is when I can grow it. The thing with the hardiness zones, though, is that I'm in Southern California, zone 10B. Florida also has a 10B. There are areas of Florida that's also 10B. We cannot grow all of the same things. So every 10B is not the same. So the plant hardiness zones in different areas doesn't mean that you have necessarily the same climate or the same growing conditions. But your last frost date and first frost date for your area, those dates will let you know what you can grow, when you can grow, what's more likely to survive. And you can count backwards and sow those seeds and start those transplants indoors and then set them outside when the weather is permittable. Now, going back to the Almanac website where I put in that zip code, for them, it says that there's a 30% probability threshold, meaning that there's a 3 in 10 chance that frost will occur before or after the listed frost dates. So make sure you check your local weather, for your area. So even having the first frost date, the last frost date, the plant hardiness zone, please still check your local weather and go outside. Go outside and see what's kind of going on. See what's going on. And then it's also important that you know your specific growing areas in your garden, because you could have areas that are open and exposed to the elements. You can have areas that are shaded under trees. You can have areas that are next to aluminum siding or a concrete wall. You can have spots that are, maybe you have a water feature, maybe you have a pond or a pool or some kind of water feature on your property, and that will also affect
Yes.
what you can grow in your area. So it's a lot of information that goes into gardening. It's a lot more than just throwing a seed, just throwing a seed in the ground, covering up and pouring some water. But we're hoping that the information on the USDA plant hardiness zones and the first and last frost dates are helpful information to you in your gardening journey. And T-Nog says, because of climate change, so many things have changed, and that is so correct. That is so correct. And even with and we could say that because that's why the USDA updated the plant hardiness zones in 2023, because the climate has changed so much, and most of the areas in the United States switched to a warmer zone or a warmer half zone. I think a few stayed the same, maybe one or two went cooler, but the majority of them moved to warmer temperatures. So that just tells you something right there.
To piggyback off of what you were saying with yourself versus Florida, the hardiness zone is primarily concerned with how cold it gets. It doesn't consider how hot it gets. So
That's
places
right.
like yourself in Florida, your best gardening time may be spring and fall and not summer. Whereas people, for me, it's definitely summer and that's
Summer.
it. And also, yeah, the water feature you were mentioning, humidity factors a lot in how well certain plants will do. And this comes down to now variety, where you would really have to research what best type of tomato, let's say, is more susceptible, is less or more susceptible to disease if it's in a more humid versus a drier air type climate. So yeah, there's more to consider. Once you get past, you give your first year, you just plant what you can and you enjoy what you reap. But the next couple of years, you really want to start digging in to specificness of plants to get the maximum yield for all your efforts.
Yeah. So we talked about earlier, we talked about the storm. So this Winter Storm Fern that is passing through 2/3 of the United States. And for those of you in the chat, if you are affected by this winter storm, how has that changed your plans for your garden? Like in this moment now, or even for like the next few weeks or months, has the Winter Storm Fern just changed how you thought you were going to do your garden for this time of year? Like I said, where I am, we're not affected. We are part of the 1/3 that's not affected by the Winter Storm Fern, but 2/3 of the country, are affected. So if you do have some changes, some change in plans due to the storm, let us know in the chat. Also, if you want to come up and say something, I typed the link in the chat earlier, but you can come up and say hi. You can shout out your garden, your area, your space where you are. If you have social media, shout out those channels. We definitely welcome you to do that.
Oh, speaking of something that the storm has affected, well, not just the storm, but the winter in general, because we usually have like a few days of spike of warmth in January, and we haven't had that this year. So typically I've been able to keep my compost going, adding to it, turning it. But this year has not been the case. So I actually had to go out and buy a new can so that I could get rid of all the compost I have inside because they were just piling up.
Oh,
So I had to make
wow.
a new compost. I have a short on it if you want to check that out. So I got a can, an aluminum can. It's like 30 gallons. I had to drill holes at the bottom. And then I was able to, pile on my kitchen scraps, my coffee grounds, all my paper shredding. So I'm still composting, but it was really a bummer that I couldn't get to my actual compost that I already have and do something with it because it's completely frozen shut. The compost is, like a big hard rock in there. I can't I can't do anything. So yeah, this particular winter has affected me that way.
And Miss Linda says you must learn your area when it comes to when you will start your plants. And that is so important. Like if I said, oh, I see Joy doing a video and she's sowing seeds for this, or she's getting ready to plant that, and then I go to sow those seeds in my area, it might not work out. You do have to learn your local area, your local garden, and the various microclimates in your own garden.
Yeah. Yeah, I like to watch a lot of Canadian channels to get me rolling, at least give me inspiration, because if they're starting it already, then I know I have a week or two that then I should be starting it. But then I like to watch California because I feel like, oh, that's what's going to be soon. It just gives me hope for that.
Yeah. And Miss Linda says the weather has not changed her plans. Last year, they had snow at the same time. And I know Miss Linda is in Louisiana, and I'm from Louisiana too. But, I remember growing up, we didn't have hardly any years with snow. We had some years where it was a little frost or, a little chilly or whatever. Or if we got anything, it would melt almost before it hit the ground. I remember one year I think this was junior high school, I believe, it snowed and the snow stayed on the ground all night into the morning. We made little snowballs of little, things or whatever. But by the time it was time to go to school, the snow had melted. So, but for areas that are not used to having these cold temperatures, and it's not just the cold temperatures, it's what comes with it. The snow, the ice, the freezing ice, the sleet. And then when that stuff starts melting, you slush all over the ground, all of this melting water. If you're not used to that type of weather conditions, it requires you to definitely, be safe. Definitely be safe. So, Joy, I think.
Oh, I wanted to add.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
When it gets to springtime, there's also a calculator out there that tells you your soil temperature. So I was saying before, I don't know what workable ground means. So now that I've found this site where it tells you the average soil temperature in your area. Now, granted, they're taking their samples, let's say, 2 towns away from where you are. So you still have to consider that. But it gives you a baseline, at least, that the soil temperature is safe for your cold, hardy plants versus your warmer, plants. Just throwing that in.
In the last live stream, we talked about a January to-do list, and we wanted to kind of put out some things each month to say, okay, hey, for this month, and this is, is not dependent on where you live so much or your hardiness zone or your frost dates, but just some things that you could do for that month to just help you with your garden. And Joy, did you have some updates on that for us?
All right, sure. Everyone should review, where is it? Your inventory, your seeds, your amendments, your fertilizers, maybe your containers. Maybe they've gotten old and brittle. I know some stuff that I have to be the stuff that I use from the house, not the stuff that necessarily that you bought if they were in good condition. But like a lot of my jugs, let's say, if they've been in the sun for an extended period of time, they get brittle. It's time to just let them go. Also, pest control. I know fungus gnats is an issue for me, because particularly if you buy soil, you cannot control what you're going to get. So mosquito dunks is popular. If you have time and space, you can boil water and dump that in your soil, or you can bake your soil. Oh goodness, all that stuff. Then your primary tools, whether it's indoors or out, make sure you're oiling it and getting some of the rust off. Maybe you had to deal with disease in the past season, so you might want to get alcohol and rub the stuff off of there, or soak it, or whatever. Get that stuff
I definitely
clean.
have to do that. I definitely have to do that. And y'all, if you remember a few videos back, I was talking about some old rusty tools I had, and if anybody had ideas, was it worth even trying to save them? Y'all, them rusty tools still sitting out there. They are still sitting out there. Sometimes your tools get to the point where they just need to be replaced. But during this month of January, when garden work is a little bit slower, it's good to check your tools and all of your inventory of everything. So if you need to replace your tools and buy something new, you can do it now instead of waiting until, March, April, when you're really into the heat of growing your garden, and you're like, oh man, but I don't have these snips, or I don't have this scoop, or whatever. Get those things now in January.
Right. Get your catalogs. I know they're pouring in. Those catalogs are there. Peruse your catalogs. Take advantage of sales. People, the seed companies are always having sales, so take advantage of that. If you've been using the same company for a while, maybe try a different one. Maybe try a different variety of that same seed you've been doing. I know not this season, but next season, I'm going to be transitioning and really honing in on certain varieties that might be better for my area here versus just, overall, it's going to do well for everybody kind of plants. Your current
what though, but speaking of that too, I said that this year and moving forward, I am going to focus on getting more plants that are specifically meant for containers. Dwarf, compact, not everything, I still gonna, grow crazy, but looking at the varieties of those plants that I do enjoy growing, looking for container sizes, dwarf sizes, determinate versions, and stuff like that. So
yeah, I like that, because like tomatoes, let's say, if you want more saucing tomatoes, because I don't have enough saucing tomato varieties, I have a lot of vining ones. So next season, once I've used up these seeds, I'm going to be leaning more heavily towards those determinate plants. So I'm excited about that, which goes into, reviewing your garden layout. If, like me, I have a trellis system for my tomatoes that are vining. Now, if I'm going to be leaning more into the determinates, then, now I can rotate maybe more beans into that trellising area instead, if I'm not going to have as much tomatoes in that space. So review your garden layout. Maybe you lost a tree in a storm. I lose trees all the time here, so I might have gained, more sunlight in a space, and now I can plant certain things there that I wasn't able to before. Maybe you have gophers, and now that space is like being attacked. So now you have to figure out, you got to net the space, you got to put something in, you got to now be just above ground gardening in that space. Look at your last year's, how did it do, and move forward. What else we got? If you start plants like me indoors, get your indoor space started, get your lights, dust them off, wash your seed containers like before, and go through your seeds. I think, what I've been doing, since I can't, if I'm not planting anything, I'm not sowing seeds every day. So I do watch, I watch back to prior gardening channels, my own channel. I look back on.
Yes.
I like I said, I like watching like Canadian channels because they're a couple of weeks ahead of me. So it gives me like a prompt of, okay, they've started, so it's your turn soon. So go back and watch some of their of that content. They would appreciate it for sure.
Yeah. Miss Shirley gave me a recommendation. She says get a bucket or pot of sand with motor oil or cooking oil to slow rust and keep the tools oil. And
Right.
I saw, y'all, something just flew. I'm looking outside. I'm looking outside, and I think that's the flap to my little greenhouse thing. Either that flipped open or something just flew across my yard. So I'm gonna have to check that out after this live stream. But I did hear about that, like the buckets of sand and stuff. I've heard about that, and I have some decomposed granite. I think I can use that, and I have some cooking oil around here somewhere. I really don't cook with cooking oil. I don't use a lot of vegetable oil, but I think I do have some. And that's something that I can do with the new tools and the tools that I have in good condition, because y'all, them rusty tools, if I pick them up, I might only have like the handle and the tool itself just crumble. I think that too. Look, Stacy says,
Hey,
I
hands.
think it's very important to wash your containers and to dump out your soil and check for pests. Now, that's true. And that's something that I'm doing as I go through the garden. When I redid my main area, all of that soil that I had in my mini raised beds, I resifted, well, with a lot of help. Shout out to everybody who helped me. You know who you are. But I resifted all of that soil. We check for grubs, we check for bugs and everything like that. And so before I put that soil in the new metal raised beds, I definitely went through and I checked everything. I have my seed trays soaking in some bleach and detergent, liquid detergent solution. And I'm gonna scrub those out. I have a scrub brush, like especially for that. So I'm not just putting the trays in there, just dunking in, swishing around and putting. No, I'm gonna scrub them. I'm gonna scrub them, uh, and make sure that they are clean, because just dunking them in and pulling them out, or just taking a water hose to them. If your soil is contaminated, or if you have pests in your soil and you leave the slightest little bit of soil, in the seed starting tray, you can contaminate the new seeds that you sow.
Right.
I think that pretty much wraps us up for this week.
I think
We
so.
so today's topic was talking about USDA plant hardiness zones and frost dates. Let's define them. What do they mean? What's the difference? Is one more important than the other? Can we throw one out the window and only use the other, or vice versa? My verdict is that both pieces of information are important, but there's additional information you need even with that. Joy, what do you say?
Oh, goodness. I'm sorry. I was off to La La Land with some other information in my head.
Oh, yeah. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. Since we do our live, me, Healy, and I every other week, next week, I will be doing, a live on my channel, celebrating my 5 years on YouTube. So I was able to find I had posted on Facebook my first, live streaming days. So I found there was only a few videos. So I compiled them. So we're going to watch them together and I'm going to roast myself. So join me for that. For that cringe moment in history.
Yeah, we need to check that out. We need to check. If you roast yourself, then we won't, we won't have to do it. We won't have anything to say. Yeah.
Right. So let's see if I actually learned anything from those first 3 years.
That's gonna be awesome.
And then going hopefully this week, what I'm really working on, I have extra onions that I need to put in. If you'd like to grow ginger, now is the time to get that started. Flowers, those mostly perennial flowers, long season flowers, you got to start them early. You can winter sow them. That is definitely an option. But some, if you want them earlier, then you got to start them indoors. And they typically need it cooler. They don't want a heat mat. no heat mat needed. And most of them are very tiny seeds, so they need light to germinate. So you don't have to worry about covering them too much. And winter sowing. That's, on my list for to do this coming days.
What I'm going to do is take a look at my green stalks. So I have 3 green stalks planted. 2 of them are planted with root vegetables, some leafy greens, and herbs. I have those in, I believe it's 3 or 4 of the leaf size. So the 7-inch. And then I have 1 green stalk. It is 6 tiers and it's full of garlic. And that's the original size. So those are the 10-inch. And I think I need to move them around. I have them covered with the insect cover that you can get from GreenStalk. And it's good because it's keeping the insects out, but I don't think that the green stalks are getting as much sun because I have everything lined up on patio row. So everything, one right next to the other, and the green stalks are on the far end. So I see growth and germination at the top tiers, but at the bottom, not so much. So I think I'm going to do that this week. I'm going to continue working on just refreshing the soil in my 15-gallon nursery pot stand. And then I have to move to my 5-gallon bucket stand. So I have about almost 40 5-gallon buckets that I need to resift the soil, refresh, and prepare and get ready. And then I have 10 of the 15-gallon ish nursery pots that I'm going to be doing. And I also need to repot my grape. I have 2 grape plants. One is, I think is Thompson seedless, and the other is, it's not Concord. The name is on the tip of my tongue. I can't remember, but I need to uppot that and then build a new trellis that will allow the grapes space to grow but not obstruct other planters, because it's going to be in my 15-gallon bucket stand. But I need to grow the grapes so where if I need to move another pot, I don't have to disturb the grapes.
Right.
So that's what I'm going to be doing for the next 2 weeks.
All right. We will be busy.
Yeah, we will.
All right.
So, we want to thank you all for being with us today in the live stream. If you're here for the replay, we definitely appreciate you. Like I mentioned today, we talked about USDA plant hardiness zones versus frost dates, and not even necessarily versus, one or the other, but both. What are they actually like? What's the definition of it? Because many gardeners use the plant hardiness zones for annual growing. And we learned from the definition straight from the website that the USDA plant hardiness zones are for perennial growing. So something you may not have known, or you probably just glanced over, but we know now, straight from the website. Right. And we talked about the frost dates, the first fall frost date, the last spring frost date. We talked about, having, giving yourself some leeway on each side of those dates, whether you're using an app or a calendar or a website or whatever. Give yourself some time on each side of those dates, just in case you get another frost or a freeze or something like that. And then we just talked about also hardy vegetables, semi-hardy plants, and then those tender plants that would not survive even a frost, let alone a freeze. So a lot of information we covered in today's live stream, and we appreciate you all for being here. Like I said, whether you're in the live or whether you come for the replay, and we hope to see you in our next live stream.
Yes. And thank you to Miss Shirley for the congratulations. Everybody have a great week. Keep warm. It's going to stay cold out there.
And we're going to sign off, Joy.
Yes. Your info is scrolling at the bottom, but my info is also there. Catch me on Joy of the Garden and Home. I have Rumble, which is just a duplicate of the channel. I have an Instagram account, but I don't do much there, but maybe I'll pick it up when there's something to show. And also, I do have Facebook, but I haven't updated the thing. And I'm going to be posting our lives on there just to get more people in. Yeah. So that's me. What's my sign off? Oh yeah. So well, harvest more.
And then I have my information scrolling at the bottom right now. I'm only on YouTube. I keep saying it. I am thinking about opening a Rumble account, like Joy said, just to duplicate what I have here on YouTube. Just in case anything happens. Notably, I'm going through, it's not affecting my channel right now. But I am going through some little issues with YouTube. It's not something that you can see as the viewer, but it's something behind the scenes. So I think getting a Rumble account will help me just in case something happens on YouTube. So the information, my information is scrolling across the screen. You saw Joy's information. Once this live stream is over, I'm going to populate the description with the website references that we got all our definitions and calculators and stuff from. I want you to have that. Just explore it, use it, for your just information and knowledge. And with that, we are going to sign off. And as I say, until next time, be safe, be well, and be blessed.